Oh, hello, NWI. Welcome to Bluer by the Lake, the podcast that explores region life through a blue lens. I'm your host, Tracy Martin, and I'm so excited to be here tonight because I am coming to you from the Maryville branch of the Lake County Public Library for the most anticipated political event of this primary. I'm talking, of course, about Indivisible, NWI's public forum for the Secretary of State candidates. In one corner, we have establishment Scion Bo Bai, and in the other, we have progressive upstart Blythe Potter. Both of them have really been putting their all into this hotly contested race. And with a Secretary of State like we currently have, that pretty much every Democrat I know is desperate to boot out of office as fast as possible, there's a lot at stake. And in this matchup, it seems like this might be emblematic of the crossroads our party is in right now. Do we stay with establishment candidates? Do we go with people with a more progressive agenda? How do we cross those streams? How do we make sure everybody reflects our values? I think we're going to get a lot of interesting takes on that today. And I, for one, cannot wait to hear what these candidates have to say.
And I'm not the only one. I'm getting perspectives from 3 voters before and after the forum. Up first is my good friend Mary Bonema.
Do you have a candidate that you're leaning more towards?
If I felt like that Blythe could get the name recognition and get her name out there, I would probably be leaning more towards Blythe just because, there's just something about her that I feel more drawn to. She's lived here for a long time. She's a veteran. She's very involved in a lot of the activities we have with protesting and everything down in Indianapolis. I've seen her give some speeches. I know a lot more about her than I do Bo, honestly.
Interesting.
And I feel like he really kind of just moved back to Indiana for this. And it's like, okay, well, did you move back for this just for a leg up to because you want to eventually follow in your dad and your grandfather's position and run for governor here in the state? Like, this is your way in. So, I have those concerns.
Yeah. Hopefully today you will get those addressed.
Yes.
All righty, folks. We're going to follow back up with Mary after the forum and see if any of her questions got answered and see if anybody's got her vote. Okay, NW, I'm here with Yulissa Cruz. Yulissa, thanks for stopping by to share your thoughts. Now, do you have a leaning one way or the other?
I'd like to say that I'm nonpartisan just because I view different topics in different ways just because of the way I was raised. I'm Hispanic.
Is there any way you think either one of them can sway your vote?
Perhaps if they have concrete plans, I would definitely appreciate that.
What are you looking for in your next Secretary of State?
Someone who is very transparent. Basically someone who doesn't take advantage of the system and represents all people and not necessarily a partisan agenda.
All righty, folks. Well, let's see how this voter feels once the events of the forum are done. We'll check back in and see if anybody's earned your vote.
Each candidate is going to get up here and speak for 10 minutes about their vision for the office of Secretary of State. Once both candidates have spoken, we will go into the question and answer section. Each candidate, one after the other, will get the same question. Okay, and they will answer those questions. Their answers will be kept to 2 minutes. We have a timer here. Bob over here is our timer, has a timer, because we want to make sure we keep on track and we want to make it fair for everybody, that everybody has the same amount of time. Now, just so that you know, over the past month, we have taken questions from our membership. And we also had, for those people who showed up before 6 o'clock, we had a card zone on the table. So that's where all the questions came from. After the question and answer is over at 7:30 p.m., we will ask each candidate to give a closing statement. Okay, that is how it's going to work. Also, I want to say that we have Tracy Martin here. Please raise your hand. Tracy does the Bluer by the Lake podcast, and she is here filming tonight, and will probably be talking to people after everything is done. So I want to thank both candidates for being here, and I am going to welcome Blythe to the podium first.
Thank you for being here. The timer is started.
I am Blythe Potter. I am one of the candidates seeking the Democratic Party nomination for Secretary of State. Thank you, Indivisible Northwest Indiana. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being engaged in Democratic politics in Indiana. I'm from a very red county. I'm from Johnson County, and this doesn't happen down there. So this is amazing. I am a mom. I have a 5-year-old. I have 2 stepdaughters. They're 19 and 22. They were 7 and 4 when I met them. I'm a small business owner. I've owned a salon and spa in Bargersville for the last 8 years. I have an MBA in conscious capitalism, which means we care about shareholders, we care about profits, but we also care about our employees, our environments, our communities. I'm actively involved in the Johnson County Democrats as a precinct chair. I was a delegate in 2024 for the state and national conventions. And what got me into this race is I'm hearing the same things from voters that I have felt for a long time. Representatives aren't listening to us. They don't listen to our phone calls. They're not listening to our emails. They are not representing us. They're not representing our voices. And I ran for town council in 2023. And after the election, about 6 months after, I still had people asking me when the election was. I'm like, okay, we're sharing information. We're talking about this. How are people still not understanding this? And it's because the people like our county clerks, not all of them, but a lot of them in the Secretary of State's office are not sharing information about elections. It seems like the easiest way to increase our voter turnout is to market and advertise elections in some capacity, definitely with the Secretary of State's office, ideally in conjunction with our county clerks. And as a small business owner, I do a lot of marketing and advertising on a very small budget, so it seems pretty easy. And one of the ways I want to do that is by creating Indiana's first voter guidebook. Many other states have them. I want to have a digital version. I want to have a union printed and held version. So everyone will have access to them if you're a registered voter. It can come to your address. You can opt out if you don't want a paper copy. But it'll include everything you need to know about your upcoming elections. Where is your voting location? What are the hours? When does early voting start? Do you qualify for an absentee ballot? Who's on your ballot? What are the offices you're voting for these people? What do those offices do? And I'd really like to have a portion on these books where candidates can write a little bit of impartial, nonpartisan information that will have guidelines about what they want to do with the office. This not only informs voters, it helps get some of the money out of politics, and it helps our precinct chairs, helps our county parties, it helps our state party get out more information. We'll still be doing the work, but we'll do a little bit less work and we can focus on other things like getting more precinct chairs and helping candidates get out the vote. So I want to make sure, oh, what's that? So I have 1 minute left. Oh, I thought I had 10 minutes. Yeah, I'm sorry. You do. Time goes really fast these days. There's so much happening. That's like a man. Time. Okay, we got on cruise control now. Okay, voter book. Other things that the Secretary of State's office oversees are the Invis website, where small business owners in Indiana like myself go and get their organization papers. I got my LLC in 2018 and spent $90, and then I got my certificate, and then I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Well, if you don't have someone that you can pay to tell you what to do next, you stumble it across yourself. So I'd like to not only update that website and all of the websites the Secretary of State's office oversees. This is a service job. I have been in the service industry in some capacity since I was 14 years old. This job should be serving our communities, serving the residents of Indiana. So you get your LLC, maybe you have some identifying questions afterwards that are optional. Give you some prompts. What county are you in? Are you in Johnson County? Are you in Bargersville? Well, if you're in Bargersville, you're going to have to go talk to the town council. Likely get some paperwork close to a railroad. Things I had to find out on my own, which took me a lot longer to get my business opened than it probably would have had I had these resources. We can have resources for capital, maybe different grants and things for different demographics like women and veterans. I am also a veteran. I spent 8 years in the military police corps. I was a bodyguard for General George Casey in Iraq in 2005. So I have leadership skills. I've done administrative work for over 20 years. And these websites, if an elder millennial like myself is not easily navigating them, we have a problem. I grew up without computers and cell phones. And if it's hard for me to figure things out, it's going to be hard for other people. I also want to update how we do in org for municipal elections. As a municipal candidate, everything is done on paper, like literal paper. You don't get to do it online. You can fill it out in a PDF, but it's still pretty cumbersome. And that seems like a barrier to entry for me. We need more, especially Democrats, maybe not as much in Lake County, but in other parts of the state, we need more Democrats to be able to get on your ballots. And having something that's online and easily accessible to fill out and just upload or send to your clerk would be a lot easier than paper. It will save time, it will save money, and it's also going to save resources. Other things I'd like to do, I want to do an independent audit of the Secretary of State's office. I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of excitement happening in there the last 4 years. Shenanigans. We need to make it a little more boring again. And let's see what Diego's really been up to. We know what the headlines say, but what else has happened? What all did the Department of Justice really get? What happened with that data? Is that something we can even find out? The people who were impacted by the data that was given the Department of Justice last year, is there a way that we can help prevent this from happening again? Maybe we get with an organization like Delete Me or Experian and have some credit monitoring offered for those registered voters who had their data just handed over. The state of Indiana also sells our data to the tune of about $12 million or so a year. I would like to put an end to that. If you are a small business owner or a resident in Indiana, your data should be held secure, especially by our government entities. It's a little bit of a mess right now, but don't worry. I'm a mom and a small business owner. I know how to clean up messes. This one will be okay. We also want to make sure that we're listening to non-voters. In 2022, when Diego was elected, 60% of voters decided not to show up. That wins elections up and down the ballot, no matter who you are. In 2024, 38% of our population didn't show up, and that was for a presidential election. I'm going to be speaking to Democrats. I've been speaking to Democrats. I've been to 63 counties so far of the 92. We're going to be talking to enlightened Republicans, independents, libertarians, but we need to be talking to non-voters. We need to be inviting these people into the process. We need to be sharing information with them. We need to make it more accessible for them to have their voices heard, because more than likely they feel a lot like a lot of us do. Like my vote doesn't matter. They're not listening anyway. Why bother? So I think these ballot books could help with that as well. I'd also like to start a program for when kids turn 18, they get a welcome to voting book. Something nonpartisan and impartial gets delivered to their home address, information about how to register to vote, the benefits of voting, how you update voter registration, maybe even how you get involved in politics. Where are your local parties? Where are your local organizations? Just information for people to be civically engaged. The No Kings protests are one of my favorite things to go to. And we need to bring this No Kings energy with us along on this ride this year for this cycle. And I think our youth are really going to be harnessing that as well. So we need to make sure that they stay and to be doing this as part of their lifelong civic duty. A lot of us didn't start that. I started this when I was in my late 30s. We didn't talk politics growing up. I was a good Hoosier girl. We did not talk politics. We just pretended everything was okay. And I think that's part of what got us here. I'd also like to advertise our Hoosier Hall Pass. It is a program for 16 and 17-year-olds. They can get an excused day from school. They can go work the polls. They get paid. They have job training. They learn how safe and secure our elections actually are. No, I'm really down. And then when they go to vote, they'll know exactly what they're going to be doing because they did it before. 15 seconds left. Please visit lifepotter.com. If you are a delegate, there's a tab on there to find out information about being a delegate. Thank you for being here. I hope to meet you afterwards.
Thank you very much, Blaine. Now we are going to hear from Bo. Bo.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here with you all tonight. What an amazing organization this is. My name is Bo Bai, and I'm running for Secretary of State as well. And we announced this campaign about 4 months ago. During those 4 months, I've gotten all across our state. We're going to get to all 92 counties before this is done. I think I've been in Lake County now 5 times. So it's good to see you all again. During the course of those 4 months, I've gotten to hear about the issues that are in front of Hoosiers in their daily lives. I was in Newcastle a couple months ago. I was talking with a dad there. He's got 4 kids. He was telling me he's working 2 full-time jobs, barely making ends meet. He was talking to me about having anxiety about keeping the heat on in his home. I don't have to tell people in Northwest Indiana what our utility bills have been doing over the course of the past few years. We've had some of the highest increases in utility rates in the country right here in Indiana. He's doing everything right, working his butt off, still having to worry about basic needs like that. I was in Randolph County not too long ago, talking with a young dad there who has some special needs, and their local school corporation there in Union City is closing down. And I don't have kids, but many of us in the audience probably have grandkids and kids. You can imagine the conversation that must have taken place between that father and his son. Having to explain to his son he didn't know when he was going to see his friends again. Didn't know if the next school that he would have to find for him would have the resources necessary to take care of him the way that he needed. But that's a story that's too often repeated in our state. Rural public schools, starved of funding, our public school teachers not getting the support that they need. I was in Dearborn County not too long ago, talking with a group of moms there. And there's nowhere in the entirety of Dearborn County, nowhere in the entire county for a new mom to give birth in a hospital. Nowhere in the entire county, these folks are supposed to be the party of family values. What's family values about not making sure that women have the health care they need? But again, that's too often a story that's repeated in our state. Rural hospitals starved of funding from the federal and the state level. So we have all of these issues that are confronting us as users today, all these big issues. What was our state legislature focused on toward the back end of last year? Not keeping our utility bills down, not helping out our public school teachers, definitely not helping out our rural hospitals. They were focused on this redistricting nonsense. And thanks to the support of the people in this room from Indivisible, and I went to some of the rallies and saw you there. We stood up to that and defeated that effort. And it was a great win for our state and for our country. So that brings me to this office and the incumbent Secretary of State, Deanna Morales. He is not bad because he's a Republican. He is bad because he views his position of trust with the public, his office, as a means to benefit himself, his friends, and his family. He has spent $92,000 of taxpayer money, of our money, on a luxury SUV because he wants to drive around our state and act like a celebrity. That's more than the average Hoosier makes in an entire year. Meanwhile, our public schools are closing, rural hospitals at risk, people barely making ends meet. But he spent $92,000 on a nice truck for himself. He's hired his family members, pays them six-figure salaries. He's taken trips all over the world and won't disclose the purpose of the travel or who's paying for it. He's given out millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in state contracts, no bid state contracts, to his largest campaign donors. It's not partisan. We can't tolerate that type of insider dealing, corruption, and grift in our state government. So on day one, if I'm elected Secretary of State, we will open an independent audit of this office. We will break open the books and see how far the grift goes. You know, I had mice in my house growing up. Maybe some of you did too. And the exterminator comes over, and when you see one mouse, it usually means there's like 50 or 100. That's just what we know with this guy. The luxury SUV, the world travel, the hiring the family, the list goes on. Let's see how far it goes. Let's see who else is complicit. Clean it up on day one for the independent audit. Second, the Secretary of State is the chief election officer of our state, and that's a responsibility that I will put my full effort into. Here in Indiana, we rank toward the bottom, if not last, in a lot of years in voter participation. And I think some of the blame for that justifiably lies at the Secretary of State's feet. So how do we increase voter participation in our state? There's a few things that we can do. I voted in every Indiana election since I was 18, all but 2 of those. I voted early because, you got family life, you got work responsibilities. It makes it easier to pick a time and place of your choosing to get to the polls and make your voice heard. Right now in the state legislature, they're trying to shorten our voting window, which is exactly the opposite of what we need to be doing. Luckily, that effort is stalling, but I think we might have won the battle, not the war on that. So I will stand up to expand early voting access in our state. It's time in Indiana we need to end to straight ticket voting. It's been a scourge on our politics here. It's reinforced partisan voting tendencies. I can't tell you how many times I talked to someone out on the campaign trail, a Republican, and they say, oh, I didn't vote for Diego Morales. I said, well, did you vote straight ticket? Oh, yeah, I did. I'm like, well, I have news for you. So I would love to see an end to straight ticket voting. 2 Republican state legislators introduced a bill during this legislative session to abolish straight ticket voting. So there's some appetite amongst Republicans for that type of reform too. It is time in Indiana, just like in Ohio, Florida, and Missouri, that we institute a citizen-led statewide ballot referendum. Yeah. So what this would do is put the biggest issues of the day on the ballot, because I trust Hoosiers. I trust the people in this room, your families, to make those big decisions. Take the gerrymandering thing, for example, overwhelmingly unpopular with the people of our state, but they tried to ram it through anyway. I trust us to make those big decisions. And if we do that, if we put the big issues on the ballot, that's going to motivate folks to get off their couch and into the polling place, because they're going to feel like they have a real say in what's going on. So that's something I will advocate for at the state level. As Blythe mentioned, the office also handles business registrations and security. Maybe she didn't mention securities fraud. That's another facet of the office as well. I'm an attorney in my day job. I've helped entrepreneurs found businesses, filing LLC paperwork, some of the regulatory hurdles that Blake was describing. I've helped business owners confront. I hope to bring some of that experience to this office. And I've also handled securities fraud investigations at the federal level. None of those things should be overly partisan. It doesn't matter what political party you're in. You can't tolerate fraud in our state. So I hope to bring some of my personal experience to those roles of this office. We could talk about policy all day, but beyond that, beyond the policy, I am sick and tired of the anger, of the divisiveness, and of the hatred that we have seen come to consume our politics. I mean, the other day, Todd Makita, the Attorney General of our state, put out an abject lie about me. An abject lie is denigrating my family, denigrating me personally. That has become the norm, unfortunately, in our politics. I'm sick and tired of it. We have to recognize, we have to support leaders who recognize that the things that we have in common are more important than any superficial difference we may have. That's the only path forward for our state and for our country. And I know that might sound naive. I'm online and I see this stuff. I'm, subjected to it a lot. But I have seen a better way with my own eyes. I was in the United States Marine Corps. I was an infantry officer. I was in charge of a few hundred Marines. We came from every different walk of life, big cities, little towns. We did not vote the same. I mean, we had different politics. But at the end of the day, we came together to achieve a common mission that was more important than the letter in front of your name on the ballot. Defending your country, saving your brother and sister. That mission was more important than any political difference we had. Beyond the policy, I want to be the type of leader in state government that brings that type of ethos to our politics, bringing people together. Enough of the hatred, enough of the division. It's time for a brighter future here in Indiana, and I hope to lead that effort. So I look forward to meeting each and every one of you and answering some of your questions and earning your support. Thank you so much again for letting me be here.
Thank you both for your opening statements. Now we're going to go to the question and answer portion. So I'm going to have Maren Woodlock. She is a member of our steering committee. She's going to come up and she is going to be asking questions.
Really? I'm going to apologize right now. We had so many questions. If your question doesn't get answered, I apologize, but we have a lot of good questions for the candidates. So we're going to start with live. And the first question is, what are your plans to protect election integrity?
Oh.
I'm going to bring the microphone to you. I'll bring the mic.
That is an excellent question. So our elections are currently very safe and secure. I know voters voice concerns about them, but most polling sites are adequately staffed with Democrats and Republicans. They are safe and secure. When we hear things to the contrary, that's just a scare tactic. It's a diversion. But I think better transparency is what we need so we can start informing the public about what really does happen at the polls. There was a behind the scenes sneak peek that Tracy was telling me about that they're doing up here in Lake County, and that's absolutely brilliant. Let's open it up. We can live stream it, share it with the public, tell people what the voting process is in each county if they want to. Have them on YouTube. They can be evergreen videos. That way we're sharing factual information and people can actually see what's happening with that.
Second, a lot of things said. In fact, Diego Morales and the Attorney General, Todd Rokita, who's not a big fan of me apparently, came out with this big report. God knows how many taxpayer dollars were spent on this. Anyone want to guess how many instances of voter fraud they found? 23. And they're parading this around like it's a big deal. And in fact, if you found 23 instances of voter fraud, whose watch were they on? You. So you've admitted to not doing your job properly. But to answer the question, we can, if there's a lot of anxiety out there right now, probably justifiably about federal overreach when it comes to state elections. I'm going to stand up strongly to that. I'm a lawyer. The way that we would confront that is filing litigation preemptively if necessary or after the fact to try and make sure that people are conducting themselves legally. And I'm happy to do that. I'll also be a poll worker at the primary. I think it's a great thing to do to take a personal role in ensuring election integrity. Put yourself in the building. I'm going to be doing that in the primary as well. It's a great question.
The next question is, what should we be concerned about during our primary and general elections this year?
The best of my knowledge, nothing. I think Hoosiers are already very much paying attention to what's happening. They're paying attention to when early voting is happening, and they're also going to have their cell phones ready to take video or to take action if they need to be. I know there's a lot of worry about maybe ICE or some federal officials being at the polls. Who knows what's going to happen in this administration at this point? So I think we need to just make sure that we stay on alert. Remember to communicate information to one another. Have our phones charged and ready when we go to vote, and make sure we're voting early. Do absentee if you can, and make sure you're telling your neighbors to do the same.
In your campaign, are you? I'm sorry.
You want me to answer as well?
I'm sorry.
I don't have anything, groundbreaking here. But so the question was, what should you be thinking about?
What should be the concerns that we should be thinking about in the primary and general elections here?
It's a great question. Our concern should be getting every single person in here to sign up 20, 30 of your friends to go and vote. Inform them about the issues. Tell them about why our candidates are going to be the candidates that are going to deliver on making life more affordable for Hoosiers, making some common sense, instilling some common sense back in our state government, and rooting out the waste, fraud, and abuse that is just subsumed the Secretary of State's office. We can't tolerate that. But if people do not hear that, if they just go out into the void and maybe they don't vote or they go to the polls without hearing the information, we can't be surprised when we're not successful. The onus is on us as individuals to inform our neighbors and our friends about the choice that they have.
I'm going to ask you this question first, though. In your campaign, are you taking or should you accept money from corporations, dark money, or opposing camps such as MAGA?
So I have not accepted any money from corporations, dark money. The Secretary of State's website has a campaign finance portal on it. It's not a good website. I think it's a little clunky, and I think it should be really easy to determine who is financing people's campaigns. So I'd love it to just operate as like a Google search. Right now, that's not the case. It's pretty hard to find out who is contributing to people. That being said, all of my campaign donors are publicly available. When you're talking about dark money, I mean, it's all out there for people to see. And then, look, if we are going to be successful, we have to build a broad coalition of support. I'm going to ask for the votes of people who are Republicans and somebody who even voted for Donald Trump. I'm going to ask for their support too, because if we're going to be serious about winning this election, that's what it's going to take. And so I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to show them why Secretary of State Diego Morales is not the right person for this job.
Wait, go ahead and answer. We'll just have a little bit of soundtrack. I am the only grassroots and people power candidate in this race right now. And I am committed to not taking any corporate PAC money. I'm not taking any corporate money and any large dollar donations. I'm having conversations with the donor to make sure that not only myself and the donor know, but there are no strings attached to that. And we'll have $0 tied to big MAGA donors, APAC donors, or friends of Jeffrey Epstein.
This question will go to Bo first. What are your plans to improve voter turnout, and what will you do to promote registration and turnout amongst the youngest voters and all voters?
So this is a very important question. Here in Indiana, we rank toward the bottom, if not last, in voter participation. Something I touched on a little bit in my remarks. There's some ways that we can fix that, and I'm sorry to be to repeat myself here, but expansion of early voting into straight ticket voting. The chief reason that people do not vote is that they feel like the outcome is predetermined, like their vote doesn't matter. Straight ticket voting is the largest contributing factor in that apathy. So end of straight ticket voting, citizen-led ballot referendums, which are going to energize people because they're going to feel like they have a real say. So that's how we're going to increase participation. You mentioned young people specifically. I just turned 30, so I know that's, I'm feeling older, but I guess as politicians go, that's pretty young. So hopefully I can appeal a little bit to younger folks. We've already been to several college campuses on this campaign. I will hold a town hall during the general election on every major college campus in our state.
All right. So this year it's all boots on the ground because I'm not in the Secretary of State's office to help increase this. We have about 70% voter registration, which isn't bad, but we can absolutely increase that. Like I said on my platform, we will be reaching out to 18-year-olds. We'll send them a voter guide, teach them how to register to vote, how they can get engaged. We're going to remind voters about the elections that are coming up. But right now, I'm building a coalition across the state of Indiana, a grassroots coalition, not only to help get out the vote, but to engage young people. We are listening to young people. So much so that I was recently endorsed by the Indiana High School Dems. 43. So I'm still relatively young, but I am listening to our youth, and they do not have enough people listening to them. And I, too, very much want to work with the state legislature when I'm elected to make sure that we can have those citizen-led ballot initiatives. And then anything else I want to do, like eliminate straight ticket voting or even have ranked choice voting, I want all of that to be on the ballot so that it's not like Potter making that decision. It's going to be the Indiana voters making that decision. But right now, we need to make sure everyone's saving the day, May 5th, November 3rd, primaries and general. Make sure that your voter registration is up to date before April 6th. Check it every month. Do it diligently. If people don't have a driver's license, make sure they know they can get a free voter ID to make sure that they can go and vote and have a valid ID. But right now it's talking to our neighbors, being in third spaces like this, sharing information on social media or however is possible. If anyone complains to you about the reality, regardless of what they're mad about, are you registered to vote? Because May 5th is the primary. You can go vote. You can go have a margarita or something.
It's going to take this question first. What do you think you can accomplish in office, considering that no matter how elections go in Indiana, we will still be majority?
That will hopefully change this year. But again, this is an administrative job, right? The most important thing we can accomplish is updating systems, modernizing how the office works, and sharing information. There is nothing partisan about anything on my platform because this is a customer service job. We are serving the public. We're going to improve all of everything. It's kind of a mess in there. What was the question? I just got total brain fart. Bring trust back into Indiana politics. It is really hard for people to trust our elected officials. I want to change that. Right now, we have a do as I say, not as I do leadership style. That has to change. We need servant leaders in office. We are here to serve the public because the public pays us with their tax dollars. So I want to change leadership style. I want to lead by example, not just for Democrats, but for anybody who decides to be an elected official. We need to flip the switch on how politics are run in Indiana.
The next question. What do you think you can accomplish in office, considering that no matter how election goes in Indiana, we'll still be?
One of the things that I hope to accomplish in my campaign is run very competitively at the top of the ballot. And hopefully we can help some folks down ballot to bring the supermajority in the state legislature. Diego Morales, Secretary of State, is a symptom of a larger problem. He's bad, but he's a symptom, not the root cause. We have had 20 years of little competition in our state politics. Without competition, it's just like in business. If there's one store in town, they can charge consumers whatever price they want. Same in politics. One group of people in charge, voters get the shaft. It is time for some competition in our state politics. When I win this race with your help, it's not going to be the same course of business that they're used to. It's going to force them to be held to take better actions because they're going to have a fear of accountability. That's what I hope to accomplish.
Okay, the next question. Bo, you take this one first. What is your position or thoughts on voter rolls being turned over to the federal government?
So this room is probably pretty knowledgeable about this. Just for those that may not know, Diego Morales, without even being asked, turned over the personal information of millions of Hoosiers to the federal government. That is deeply concerning to me. Without it showing him need nothing, just wholesale gave it to him. So if I'm elected, you can bet that we're going to be doing everything we can to protect Hoosiers' personal information, sensitive information. Hoosiers in both political parties are wary when the federal government just has all of your data for no apparent reason. I mean, why? There's no showing of need. So it's very concerning. And if I'm Secretary of State, you can bet that's not going to happen.
No, thank you. So yes, the Department of Justice handed over, or Diego Morales handed over to the Department of Justice our driver's license information, the last 4 digits of our social security number, and very likely how we vote in the primaries. What they want to do about that, I don't really want to know. But we do need to secure our data. I mentioned this before. Data should never be sold by our government. Data should not be handed over to the federal government by anyone who's elected in the state of Indiana. We need to safeguard that, and we need to find a way to not only safeguard that in the future, but make sure anyone who's been impacted by that in the past has some form of security, knowing that their social security numbers, their information is kept private, get it off the internet, wherever it may be, and hopefully recover anything that we can.
Take this one first. What would your first priority be upon taking office?
This is an easy one, and I wish I didn't have to do this. $92,000 of your money on a luxury SUV, hiring relatives, paying them 6-figure salaries, world travel, potentially on taxpayer dime. We don't know. It's time to find out. Day one, we will conduct an independent audit of this office. We'll see how far the grift goes. We'll see who else is complicit. There's no room in our state government for insider dealing and corruption like that. That will be my first priority in office. Then we will turn to election issues and increasing participation in our state.
Similar independent audit. Let's see what's been going on. Let's see where the disconnect between the BMV and the Secretary of State's office was in 2024, possibly even last year. I don't actually know about that. I want to see how voter purges have been done in the past and make sure we have a good schedule that people are informed about how voter purges are done in the future. And whatever the results of the independent audit is in real time, I want to make sure we're sharing that information. So Hoosiers know what I know, and they can see what's been going on. And this could be a cautionary tale going forward on, hopefully, us keeping our elected officials accountable and paying attention to what's happening in these offices.
What are the most important duties of the office, and how do you plan to improve on what's been done by your predecessors? What changes would you make?
No, the better question might be, what changes would I not? I want people to be able to trust our elected officials. I want it to be approachable. I want people to know I'm going to listen. I want people to know I'm going to listen to feedback. I'm not going to have all of the answers. So I want to make sure that the systems that this office oversees is not only something that's taking feedback and listening to people who are using it. You know, we buy like a car and you get in there and like, why is this thing loose? Did anyone ever like look at this before they sold it? Just really paying attention to the ins and outs of how things work, making them easier, but mostly transparency and consistency. I want people to be able to trust this office again and know that it is not only operating ethically and safely, but transparently, and people can have more say in what's happening and see what's going on behind the scenes.
The most important duties of the office.
Every duty is important. Probably chief among them is making sure that our elections are secure and fair. Our democracy, I've been, when I was in the Marine Corps, I've been places where they didn't have great democratic processes. I've seen that. We can't have that in America. In the states, the Constitution has delegated authority to the states to run elections, empowered the Secretary of State here in Indiana to be the chief election officer. It will be on my mind every second of the day if I'm elected. How do we make sure our elections are secure and fair? Because our democracy is our most vital resource. And I will put every ounce of my being into protecting it.
Does Indiana have a civic literacy problem? And what would you do to improve Hoosiers' civic literacy?
We absolutely do. And we've relied solely on our 501c4s and nonprofits and volunteers to share this information. Northwest Indiana, Indivisible, League of Women Voters, they are doing the work that the Office of Secretary of State should be doing, at the very least, supporting them with that. Same with our county clerks. So making sure we're sharing information, making information available online, making it easy to find, and hopefully at some point working with the legislature to make it so that civics is taught regularly in school, because our public schools are absolutely under attack. And I think that's one of the biggest problems we have, that we are not teaching our kids how to engage and then change these systems, even changing how they're taught. I grew up in public schools. I went to Ball State for 4 years. My kids are all in public schools. They are the backbone of the state, and we've been seeing them decimated by the school voucher system for the last 20 years or so. So that is another thing. I have 0 people who will be donating to my campaign that support school vouchers.
So I would like to see a revitalization of civics in our state. I go around especially among young people, and I tell them we were at a Pizza King the other day in Decatur County, and this young guy working the cash register wanted to take a photo with me because I was running for office, and he said, "Oh man, all politicians are bad." It did not used to be that way. We used to look up to political figures in our state country as models for good behavior, as great Americans. I hope to, this is a larger goal, but revitalize our civics in our state. We can look up again to our political leaders in our state, in our country. Big way of doing that is informing people. Strong public schools are going to help us do that. I was talking about Randolph County public school that's closing. That's true of a lot of rural places in our state. The voucher program the universal voucher program has been a disaster. The richest man in the world could move to Indiana tomorrow, and we'd have to subsidize one of his 12 kids to go to school. And meanwhile, our public schools are closed, right? So that doesn't make any sense to me. And that's hurting our civics.
You'll take this one next. A study found that that Indiana ranks 51st for the strength of its campaign finance laws. As chief election officer, what changes, if any, would you make to those laws?
I'd like to make a lot of them, and I'm trying to lead by example with my campaign. I would love to see Indiana have caps on what can be donated to candidates up and down the ballot. I think with the help of the Secretary of State's office and the clerk's offices and my voter guidebook, we can take a lot of that money out of politics. So I've probably called a lot of you in this room begging you for money, so that we don't have to have that be the case with our candidates. No one is hiring me to be a fundraiser. Nobody is going to vote for me to raise money for myself or the state. So I should be focused on sharing information, what I want to do with this office, not focused on trying to raise millions of dollars so I can send you some flyers that are going to end up here hopefully in the recycling bin. So yes, I want caps on that. I'm pretty sure that needs to be a constitutional thing with the legislature. I'm looking at my team because to verify that.
I completely agree. A really, really, really wealthy person could move to Indiana tomorrow and give Diego Morales $1 billion if they wanted to. That doesn't make any sense. The Supreme Court has issued a decision called Citizens United, which we're probably all familiar with in this room. It's been one of the worst things in our politics in my lifetime. It's allowed corporations, millionaires to have an outsized influence on our political system. Unfortunately, money has become a necessary thing to have in campaigns. Diego Morales has a lot of it. We've received contributions in this race from all 92 counties, the only candidate in this race to have done that. 85% of our contributors are from Indiana. 75% of our individual contributions are $100 and under. So we're building a broad base of support here to raise those resources to defeat Diego Morales in November. I would love to see some reform at the state level to make money play less of a role.
Stay right here, Bo. This is a short question. What is your position on ICE?
Short question.
When we saw the tragedy in Minnesota that all of you saw, I mean, the tragedies, plural, I issued a statement the following day, and I was very clear. What we saw was unprecedented in our country, or, at least not many instances of it. An American citizen gunned down in the street. What do people in the federal government say immediately following that tragedy? They make things up. Terrorist, agitator. That is just disgusting to me, honestly. It defended my sense of fairness, of what's right. That's not what America is. So of course there needs to be oversight of ICE, and that type of activity cannot continue in our country. As the Secretary of State of Indiana, will I have a direct impact on that? I'd be lying to you if I said I would. I mean, the Secretary of State's job here is pretty discreet in nature. But I think as Americans, regardless of our political party, we can all stand up and call out that type of stuff when we see it.
I have been actively protesting against ICE for a long time. As a military police soldier, the most ridiculous thing I think I've seen on American soil is what is happening right now with ICE. I don't care if this job doesn't have anything to do with ICE. I will still be protesting. I will still be speaking up. And if you don't like 4-letter words, this is your warning to plug your ears because fuck ICE. Yeah, abolish ICE.
Do you think that
Whoever speaks last speaks first.
The Secretary of State doesn't handle ICE. It's a federal institution. I'm focused on Diego Morales and that he's ripping off the Hoosier taxpayer.
Okay, you want to stay here, Bo, and I'll ask you the next question. Do you think that the way the congressional, state house, and state senate maps have been drawn inhibits voter turnout? If so, how would you address this?
1,000%. The biggest reason that people do not vote in our state, the data bears this out, is because they feel like their vote doesn't matter. What contributes? Gerrymandering, things that make our elections less competitive. That's why it was so important that the people in this room throughout our state stood up to that nonsense, because that would only make our elections less competitive. I would love to see in our state a nonpartisan board that conducts redistricting on the census years. That would be great for our state. The Congress could pass a law tomorrow which outlaws this stuff. Why haven't they done it? They shouldn't.
So if we're only going after the typical voters, yes, the gerrymandering hurts us. But this year, we're going to show them that it doesn't, because we're going to be having these conversations and getting our friends to go with us to vote. I would also love to have an independent entity do our lines for the Senate, state, House, things like that. But I think it should be voted on. So if we can have the state legislature agree that we need citizen-led ballot initiatives, let's have our maps, when they're redrawn before they're just published in gospel, let's let Hoosiers vote on them so that they can have some say in it and really own what's happening where their districts are.
Explain and describe your journey into Indiana politics.
By total accident. I was not born to be a politician. I was not raised to be a politician. There are many times in my life I said I was never going to do something like this. It really started in 2023. I had a 2-year-old and I finished my master's degree with a post 9/11 GI Bill, and I was going to go back to school. I got accepted to a PhD program. I was walking around my town. I took my daughter to her daycare in a stroller. And to get to her babysitter, which is an 8-minute walk, I couldn't just walk to the subdivision. That was 2 minutes for me. I had to cross 5 lanes of 45-mile-an-hour traffic, go to a trail, cross back over, no crosswalks, to get there. I'm like, man, who does this nonsense? I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to figure out how to fix my community. Well, it was really expensive and they wouldn't let me still have my post 9/11 GI Bill. So the Johnson County chair, Amanda Stevenson Holmes, interestingly, within a week or so of that, posted on the Nasty Women of Johnson County group, hey, we have places on the ballot open this fall. Anyone want to run? I was like, so I changed my box. I no clue what I was doing, put my hat in the ring. I went up against 3 Republican incumbents. I got very close to knocking one of them off. I'm also blacklisted from politics in Johnson County. I'm no longer allowed on any boards, but that was my insight in there because I didn't win, but we had the highest voter turnout on that municipal election. We were the only ones on the ballot. I had the Republicans calling literally at 5:55 trying to get people to come and vote. They took my platform and they have been implementing it. We've got a lot more crosswalks now, and I take full credit for it.
When did I get involved? I don't know if I could talk when I first got involved, but look, I have just been very blessed with an amazing family. My granddad is a hero of mine. My dad is a hero of mine. My mom, my grandma. And I get asked this question a lot. Well, did you always plan to do this? No, I didn't, to be honest with you. But what I did plan to do, and what they instilled in me since I could walk, was an obligation to give back to your community, to involve yourself in public service in some respect. There's a million ways to do that. Leah is here. She's a public school teacher. We have a ton of public school teachers in the audience with us. That's a good way to give back. Politics is just one of those things. But I was taught at an early age, you have an obligation to give back. And I've involved myself ever since. I've been campaigning for folks here in the state, going back all the way to 2016. So I just, it wasn't always in my plans, but I'm happy to do it. And this is a really important race this year.
This question is going to be different for the two of you, but similar. I'm going to ask you, Blythe, first. Blythe, what made you decide to become a Democrat?
Oh, I think I need more than 2 minutes for this. I was raised a Republican because we don't have very good relationships right now. I was born in 82. So again, no internet, no cell phones. We didn't talk religion. We didn't talk race. We didn't talk politics. We didn't talk money. Hoosier hospitality style, right? Kind of toxic. When I was in Iraq in 2006, that's when I got home. I had 90 days to find my own health insurance. And I was like, what? I just went to war. Why don't I have health insurance? Because I'm still in the military, still in the reserve. So I kind of stunk, got my insurance and promptly got kicked off because apparently when I was 14, a dermatologist said I had acne. And I was like, oh, that's weird. I didn't know that. She got paid for it. I didn't actually have acne. And that was the first seed that was planted, like, why people want universal health care. Because sometimes we don't get it. And then continuing from that, I've lost healthcare access. Johnson County also just lost their hospital. If I were to be pregnant right now, I would literally be out of luck. So it's important to note that I became a Democrat in 2017. I was pretty hardcore for Gary Johnson in 2016, which I regret deeply. It was a mistake. I'm very sorry. And then I started learning what the Democratic Party is about. Our party values really mimic the teachings of Jesus, which most of our neighbors claim to be followers of Jesus. So there was this big disconnect from the Republican Party and, to do as I say, not as I do type mentality. So it's really been an evolution over the last 15 or 20 years. But I am a very proud Democrat. I'm a very loud Democrat, sometimes obnoxious, but I'm very happy to be here.
Bo, your question is a little bit different. But why is being a Democrat important to you?
So I mentioned my granddad and my dad, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that they were able to accomplish as Democratic politicians. Title IX, landmark piece of legislation that allowed women to compete fairly in college sports, 2 constitutional amendments, men fighting and dying in Vietnam, not having the vote. We changed that. Vice presidential succession, we changed that. Democratic politician. Fighting for working people, for organized labor to have a say, better working conditions, fair pay. All of that. That's why I'm a Democrat, because this party focuses on the needs of working people. And so, look, I'm a proud Democrat too, but I think we ought to, within reason, look for ways to work with people. We live in times of divided government. If either of us is elected, we're going to be working with a Republican legislature, at least a few of them in the legislature is Republicans, Republican governor, attorney general. So we're going to have to work with these people. And so we can't hide behind our party identity as a way to just shut out everyone else. That's not what leadership is. Leadership is reconciling your differences and, forming principled compromise where you have to deliver results for people. So that's what I'm going to do.
Blythe? Why are you the best person for this job?
I am the best person from this job because I know exactly what it means to be a Hoosier in Indiana. I have lived here my entire life, with the exception of my deployment. I've suffered under the GOP supermajority. I know what it's doing firsthand. I've experienced it. I'm living it. I have been living it. And that's part of the reason that I'm in this position now, because I know I can affect change. Everything this office oversees is totally up my alley. It's in my wheelhouse. I have experience for this. I've managed people. I've managed organizations. Republican men don't scare me. Republican executives in office do not scare me. I've been toe to toe with many of them already. They back down very quickly when you confront them with facts. They don't even know how to gaslight you to your face most of the time. So, because I got this.
You're the best person for the job.
So I have professional experience that is directly relevant to this job. I'm an attorney. Part of this job is rooting out securities fraud in our state. I have done that at the federal level. I hope to bring some of that experience to this office. That shouldn't be overly partisan. As an attorney, I've helped entrepreneurs file their business paperwork with the Secretary of State's office. That can be a daunting task. And having an attorney in the Secretary of State's office who understands that process will be a good thing for our state. Understanding the intricacies of election law will be good as well. I've handled election law cases to federal courts, and I hope to bring some of that experience to this office as well. But I mentioned this in my remarks. Beyond all of the policy, beyond all of that, I intend to be the type of leader that can instill a new sense of pride in our state, of civility, and of hope and optimism for the future. That is the type of leader that I want to be. Drawing from my experience in the United States Marine Corps, where I manage hundreds of people from all different backgrounds, from varying political beliefs, and reconciling our differences and coming together to achieve a common mission. That is the leadership experience that I will bring to this office every day.
Okay, Blythe, you're the next. This couple of questions don't necessarily relate specifically to the Secretary of State job, but they are questions that were asked by the audience. Do you support public schools?
Yes, of course. I do. I love public schools. I grew up in public schools. It's home. We need to be supporting our public schools. We need to be paying our teachers and admins at our schools better. We need to be treating them with the respect that they deserve. And we need to really work on getting rid of the voucher system. We need to be reinvesting in our schools and not worry about getting a surplus in our state government so we can buy helipads and SUVs. So yes, I wholeheartedly, 1,000% support public schools. If it were the world according to Blythe, we would have free public education beyond high school. Education is so valuable. It is so, so valuable. And our public schools are supposed to be not just a source of education, but a source of education that's well-rounded. So you're not just getting one ideology, you're not just getting one taste of something or an opinion or a partisan education. We should know a little bit more about what's happening around us, and then they're failing us right now in Indiana.
One of the things I mentioned when I get around our state is a conversation that I had with that young dad in Randolph County, someone with special needs. Can you imagine? I mean, I was getting emotional talking to him. Imagine talking to your kid if your local public school is closing. And who knows if the next school is going to have to find for him, would have the resources necessary to take care of him the way they need. There's a reason we support public schools. It's because they don't shut their doors to people that might have, special needs. They don't shut their doors to people like that. Everyone is welcome in a public school because everyone deserves a great education. So of course I support public schools. And of course I support an end to the universal voucher program that subsidizes private schools for very, very wealthy people as well. And I left my dad off last time, so I got to shout him out a little bit here. One of the things that I'm most proud of that he did that I think we can model and expand going forward in state government is instituted the 21st Century Scholars Program in Indiana. So that has allowed tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of kids from, that don't come from a ton of means to go to school to obtain a college degree debt free. We all know that it said that education is the gateway. It's the gateway to the future. Is a great equalizer, they say. That's true. So we ought to make it possible for everyone in our state to receive a world-class education.
Another question that does not specifically relate to Secretary of State job. Do you support a woman's right to choose?
Whoa. Yeah, absolutely. With no question, we shouldn't even have to have an argument about it. No governing body should ever take away healthcare access for anyone, regardless of their gender. Yeah.
Of course I do. Of course I do. That decision was between a woman and their healthcare provider. certainly not a court, certainly not the folks in the state legislature who understand nothing about it. I will always support that. That's foundational to my political philosophy. And you know what? We mentioned at the outset here, citizen-led statewide ballot referendums. Guess what that means? Put that issue on the ballot for you to decide. Because if we did that, I don't think our law would be looking the same.
Kim, how are we doing with time? We've got about 10 minutes. 10. The questions are not quite as relevant for Secretary of State at this point, but if you guys would like to answer them, we're happy to ask you the question.
2 minutes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, a closing. Do you agree with the separation of church and state?
Absolutely. And I know this doesn't pertain to the Secretary of State's office. I get asked questions like this a lot, but I think they are important to still ask your candidates these questions, even if it's not something they can affect, because it helps you get to know us and know our mind frame. Because we'll have a bully pulpit, right? As Secretary of State, I can use my words and my voice in my position to help advocate for Hoosiers, even if it's not something that I can directly make legislation or policy about. Yes, separation of church and state, absolutely.
I do. And I also happen to be a devout Christian. I go to church every Sunday. And my Christian faith teaches me that we have to have a separation for church and state. You know, I was a young kid once, a young guy. And when you tell someone what to do, especially a young man, they're going to do the opposite of that. I want people joining my faith community because they want to, not because it's been imposed on them. So of course I do. But I think too, in this conversation, we can't demonize people of various religious beliefs too. We need to come to the table in this debate in good faith and understand that people have deeply held religious beliefs. That we may disagree on this issue, but it doesn't make someone a bad person. But I do. Yeah, it's written into our founding documents, and I support.
Well, would you like to go ahead and make a couple closing statements?
I mentioned this a little bit before. We're running for Secretary of State. Incumbent is Diego Morales. Diego Morales is not the core issue here. He is a symptom of a larger problem. 20 years we have had the same people in charge of our state government. Where has that left us? Rural hospitals closed, public schools at risk, people barely getting by, highest utility increases in the country. Where has that left us? It is time for some competition in state government. It is time that voters get a choice and that we build a better future here. Diego Morales needs to go. We can't tolerate this waste, fraud, and abuse. We need to restore some trust and integrity back into our state government. I will work every day when I'm in office to do that because you deserve that, because your families deserve that, because your precious tax dollars should not be going toward luxury SUVs or family members or trips overseas. They should be going toward paying public school teachers, paving our streets, supporting our police, firefighters, and first responders. I would dedicate myself every day I'm in office to making sure that that is true.
Thank you so much for being here. I would love it if every single one of you would follow me on social media. I have Life Potter IN on literally everything that's out there except for MySpace. Something that's important to me, and I was having a conversation with a constituent earlier this week about when you go to vote, particularly if you're a delegate, I am begging you to be objective about this. You are not voting for a name. You are not voting to see for who has the most money. We are seeing across the country in these special elections, Westerners candidates are not only viable options, we are wiping the floor with competition. Texas Senate candidate was outraised 20-1, 2.4 million to 240,000. The grassroots guy won, also a veteran. I am good for this. I have experience for this. We need to see everyday Hoosiers reflected in our elected officials. We haven't been seeing that for a very long time. We've been seeing the people, repetition, same type of candidates, things like that. So please look in depth at my platform. Visit my website. Give me feedback. Ask me questions. But please be objective. Don't let my gender be a part of this. Don't let how much is in my campaign finance be a part of this. Nothing, no dollar amount will outwork me. I can assure you of that. So thank you for being here. Please follow me, and I look forward to meeting you.
Thank you both so much. Thank you very much. This has been great. Would everybody give Blythe Potter and Bo By a big hug? There's a few things I want to say before we let everybody go. The Secretary of State, just so that you know, there's some people that are confused about this. It is not on the primary ballot. We want you to know that it's one of the 5 offices that are decided at the party convention. This is chosen by delegates, so it matters who your delegates are. The candidate who is elected will run in the general election on November 3rd. So we just want everybody to be aware of that. It's part of our job to do civic education. I would say most people are not aware of this fact, and they need to be. So it's important if you support one or another of the candidates, talk to the people that you know are going to be delegates. Talk these candidates up. Make sure that that's how your voices can be heard. Talk to the people that you know are going to be delegates to the convention. Talk to them about your chosen candidates.
NWI, well, the event is over and we're here with Mary. Mary.
I thought like did a really good job. Like, oh, Bo did too. So I think I'm a little bit. I think I'm a little more leaning towards life. Honestly, Bo comes off as trying to think of the words to say. Sorry, like too polished, like it's too rehearsed. Not as authentic as like that. So that's. But what he said and what his ideas were really good. They both had very similar ideas about love stuff.
So what's next for you then with this?
I'm going to research on each of their websites. I don't know. It's going to be an intuition thing.
All right. Well, I will have to touch base with you at the convention to see where you end up. All right. All righty, NWI. We're here with Kelly. Kelly, tell me what you both feeling like. Started out with this issues are very similar. And so I started kind of looking at how they gave their response. I feel like Bo is very performative. What are your feelings about electability? I feel like Bo is probably who Indiana will want as a whole. But she is really kind of drumming up this grassroots pain, and if we can get the boots on the ground, I think that she can. So what we're going to have to do, folks, is also check in with Kelly at the convention and to see where things land for her.
So what I learned tonight is that both candidates are thinking seriously about voter participation and trust their elections, but they approach it differently. Both five focused heavily on ethics, auditing, and accountability within the office, which I can definitely respect. Blythe Potter also, she emphasized modernization, updating systems, improving online access, strengthening data protection, and creating more engagement tools, especially for younger voters. And I do love that. It's very strategic. She has like solutions, so I love that. As a Hispanic leader, I'm especially aware of how national rhetoric and federal enforcement actions can affect whether communities feel safe participating in civic life. While immigration enforcement isn't within the direct authority of the Secretary of State, I appreciated that Blythe acknowledged how fear and hesitation can impact voter engagement. Increasing participation isn't just about oversight, it's about making people feel invited, informed, and confident that the system works for them. I'm still looking for more detailed implementation plans from both candidates, but I valued Blythe's forward-looking and community-centered approach to expanding access and rebuilding trust.
So that's real. It's really exciting to see so much engagement and focus, particularly for somebody of this next generation. So did either candidate win your vote tonight?
Yes, I prefer. I feel like I still need a little bit of time to kind of do my, deep research into both of them. And I hope many younger voters, younger people come out here because we definitely need help.
Do you believe that one of these candidates has more chance to be electable?
Yeah, I think Guns, just because of like his background, I'm from a family of politicians, so he does have that. But maybe Blythe has a chance. She's very confident, very strategic. It's just it's something that we don't really see. It's something that we need.
All right, and you said that you are running for state delegate, correct?
Correct.
All right. Well, if you win, we will have to check in with you at the convention to see where you land. NWI, look what the candidate did! Secretary of State candidate Blythe Potter. Blythe, we are so happy that you made that long drive all the way up here just to tell the good folks of NWI why you're running and why you're here. So tell me a little bit about what inspired you to run.
There's a lot of things wrong with me. I've been a precinct chair, I've been a municipal candidate, and I hear the same things over and over from people that I thought myself most of my life is our elected officials don't listen to us. They don't respond to us. Our voter turnout is low. People have no clue what's happening with most elections. Even well after the elections, in 2020, I ran for municipal office, town council, and like 6 months later, I had friends who I should be spamming with things asking me, "Oh, when's the election?" And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is problematic, right? We don't have information coming from our clerk. We don't have information coming from the Secretary of State's office. And as a small business owner, an end user of the Secretary of State's office, but also I do marketing and advertising. I mean, that's what all business owners do. It seems to me like the easiest way to fix voter turnout is to market. Girl, can you imagine? Like telling people, like, hey, yo, here's an election coming up. So others, well, there's this ecosystem, which I know you're part of online, like across the country. Like you're seeing other Democrats and other progressives doing these things. Other states have voter guidebooks. Why doesn't Indiana? So that's what I want to do. I want to start the first voter guidebook that we have, comprehensive. We'll have a digital version. We'll have a union printed physical copy telling people everything they need to know about their elections.
One thing I've been hearing when people criticize your candidacy is that the tasks of the Secretary of State don't naturally lend themselves to a progressive agenda.
Oh,
What do you say to that? What parts of the job do you think would benefit from your unique progressive lens?
everything. And my platform isn't inherently like, it's only progressive because it is progress for the state of Indiana. It's not partisan. I'm not saying only Democrats need to get more information. I'm saying Hoosiers, if you live and work in the state of Indiana and you're eligible to vote, you need to know what's happening with our elections. I don't care how you vote, but you should have the opportunity to vote and you should have as much information as possible coming from your elected officials who oversee these elections. So I think my experience, I've managed people, I've managed organizations, I'm very creative. I've been at admin work for 20 years in some capacity. This is an administrative job. This is the job that serves to function as customer service for the state of Indiana, whether you're a business owner, a notary, looking for campaign finance information. We need to make these systems easier. A lot of them were built in the late 90s. Our campaign finance portal right now for the state, 1997. As an elder millennial, I can navigate it okay. But if it's challenging for me, it's going to be challenging for other people. So I think it's not even just a progressive lens. It's just a creative idea that a lot of it really came from listening to other voters.
So if you have what is the one thing that you want to get forward to the audience?
We need to bring trust back to government in Indiana. And I hope that not just the information that I share and the ideas, but that I'm resonating, that people can trust me and have these conversations and share ideas with me, because I want people to feel empowered to vote. And I also want people to feel like they own a little bit of this voter book that we've dreamt up.
FYI, folks, I reached out to Bo's team and him personally multiple times, but he declined all interview requests